Okay, so you were talking about this guy earlier, so let's jump into Elias, pronouns he, him, from Tennessee. I wanted to talk about binary sex and gamete production. That's what I've got on the call screen. Elias, you're on AXP. How you doing, man?
Hey, how you guys doing?
I'm really well. So what specifically did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll just jump right in. So I came across an argument on TikTok, actually, that I didn't know how exactly to respond to, so I wanted to call in and ask. So essentially the argument he quoted some scientists that I'm not sure if these scientists are familiar to you, but it was Emma Hilton and Colin Wright, I believe.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
And basically the claim was that gamete production was the defining thing of what determines your sex, which my understanding was that there was an important one, but not that it was the only considerable thing. And their argument was that sex was binary because there's no like third kind of gamete. It's either a lot of small ones or a few large ones kind of thing. So I wanted to see what you thought about that. Yeah,
so at risk, I don't want to turn this into a whole science lecture, but like just to be brief. Yeah, right.
Go ahead, please.
Knowing me. So there are, unfortunately, not just to speak to those two in particular, I have had interactions with those two in particular, but there's lots more people out there like them. When talking about sex as something that's more bimodal than binary and kind of fuzzy around the edges, that's like not even remotely scientifically controversial, nor has it been for a very long time. Whenever I get into these topics and people are like, oh, bring me a science paper that shows, a third gamete or whatever like that, I just like to show them like undergraduate college textbooks that talk about this. Like you can literally look up the new like Campbell's biology book and Campbell's biology, for those who aren't, biologists, this is like the tome that you have to memorize half of and then you get a bachelor's degree is what it basically is. But like the newest Campbell's biology, even it goes into trans people and intersex people. It says in the text, we now know that sex is not a binary system with only two defined outcomes. And that's not new. That's not news for anybody. That's just how it is. It's the same thing with the concepts of species or the concepts of any taxa. It's fuzzy. Tell me what a fish is. I freaking dare you. You can't. And like that, it's the same thing where if you try to define male or female in any way, you're gonna end up leaving some things out and having some, well, except for this. And well, yeah, but this doesn't really fit that, but we call it this anyway. And we do this, and so, people who, it's now become politically fashionable to try to make this, a politically contentious thing, the same way like with climate change. It's now a political thing, so now you can you say whatever you want about it. We try to boil it down to gametes. Cool. What if you don't make gametes? Do you not have a sex? Oh, well, no, it's the possibility of producing gametes. Okay. What if you don't have any gonads? Do you not have a sex? What if you have ovotestes, or you have tissue from both? Do you have both sexes now? Well, no, because we lump it into this. It's the same thing like, well, if you're XY, you're a male. Okay, what about women with Sawyer syndrome who have XY chromosomes and have given birth to healthy children? Well, yeah, but they have a phenotype of female, and we still, well, if you have XX, it's definitely female. Okay. What about men with De La Chapelle syndrome? And then, they still have a male presentation. Well, they still have the SRY gene that copies over. Okay, that doesn't always happen. And also epistasis is a thing. And sometimes you can have a completely male or female production without sex chromosomes involved at all because the sex chromosomes are not necessary nor sufficient for this kind of development. So what about them? Well, and we just get on and on and on and on and on this production of, well, it's gametes. No, it's not. It's hormones. No, it's not. It's chromosomes. No, it's not. It's genes. No, it's not. It's this and this and this. When again, any introductory undergrad biology textbook is going to tell you that there's exceptions to every rules, including these ones. And at the end of the day, what I hope people understand, because I can rant about this for hours, because people who do this, they engage in typological thinking when they should be doing population thinking. At the end of the day, what I wish people understood more of and were remembered more of is that nature is what nature is. We as scientists are trying to put it into boxes. That doesn't work all the time. And every scientist knows that. It's not controversial. It's like if you had a map. If I had a Google Earth image of the planet, that's better than a map from the 1800s. But guess what? It's still wrong because the Earth is what the Earth looks like. And every map is wrong. And we have a saying in science, every model is wrong. Some of them are useful. When we have the model of sex, it's useful. It helps us explain nature. but nature doesn't give a crap about our explanations. And if nature defies our model, that's our problem, not nature's problem. So there's a lot more to say about this, but again, that's not what the show's about, and I will ramble literally all day. There's a lot out there. You can look up, lots of other scientists that say the exact opposite of what those two in particular say.
Right.
It's just it has become a politically contentious debate, and that sucks. Is all I would say about it.
Become religiously contentious as well as politically.
Absolutely right, yeah, because now we throw gender into the mix, and like people don't like to admit that there's a difference between sex and gender as well.
Yeah, and we only have politicians who are on the evangelical side who are trying to make this a thing because they have to have the world conform to their Iron Age book.
It's real frustrating, yo. And like that's the thing is that again, I want to say it one more time because I can't stress it enough. Sex and gender being different things and both of them being fuzzy and non-binary, it's the way like I was taught in school. It's not controversial. It's only recently become this hot topic issue. And it's people trying to cram human beings into two little boxes. And I can guarantee you, if you look at 8 billion people and try to say that they're all one of two anything, you're going to be wrong. So, like, it's just, I don't know, man. Like I said, I will talk about this all day. I'm trying to hold myself back because I don't want to steal.
I'm just going to egg you on some more.
Did you have any other questions about this, Elias? Anything else you wanted to dig into?
Yeah, slightly. Two small things. One of them, I definitely understand what you were saying, and that's kind of more or less what I responded with, just without all the smart-sounding stuff. There's one part I specifically didn't know how to respond to, which was another quote that they gave from those, I know from the same two people, but it was that to confuse secondary sex characteristics with their literal sex would be wrong. Yeah. And because I referred to, I gave up the response that why are we boiling it down to just gametes now instead of chromosomes? Like the chromosomes was the thing last month, now it's gametes this month. Right. Like, why are we boiling it down to just gametes now? And that I just don't know if there is any way to respond to that, and there may not be, but I just wanted to know.
Basically, all I would say is it's so the same people who will tell you that the term uterus owner or birthing person or something like that is offensive because it boils women down to just their uterus are the same people who will also tell you I'm a real woman because I have a uterus and I can give birth and so on and so on. It's talking out of both sides of the face with nonsense. At the end of the day, simply put, sex and gender are different things. Neither one of them are as laconic or as simplified or as strict and binary as we like to pretend. We have a model. Right. We have a model of nature, and nature is much more interesting than our simple little models can allow for. And if you're trying to boil somebody down to their gamete size or their chromosomes or whatever else, I'm not for it, man. I think nature's way cooler than that, and it's just. When you can define a fish, maybe then you can define what a man is too, and it's not a plucked chicken.
Speaking of that model, I had one last quick question about the bimodal distribution graph or curve, whatever it's called. Yeah. I heard one objection I heard to that was that the x-axis would make somebody more male than someone else, and that didn't make sense to me. My immediate thought was that it's not that someone's more or less male than somebody else, but rather they have more typical male characteristics. Is that correct? What is the x-axis?
That's the long and short of it. And so that binary distribution they show, it's a teaching tool. It's a gross oversimplification. Even still, you can graph something with a ton of different variables in it. Look up non-metric multidimensional scaling. You get a bunch of clusters on the thing because you just plugged in 30 different variables into one single graph, and it's still two-dimensional. It works. And so when you say, okay, so give me the definite exact thing on this x-axis, I would say you're missing the point a little bit, because at the end of the day, what you have, this is as simple as I can put it, you have a multivariate system, because sex is not just one thing, right? It's a lot of things all happening at the same time. It's a suite of characteristics, right? So you have a multivariate system without one single solely determining variable, and without one single variable that has only two options. And when you plot that on a graph, when you put all these things together and throw them all and see what it is, you get a bimodal distribution, a strongly bimodal distribution. I'll grant you, incredibly strongly bimodal, sure. But there's still a varium of continuation between those two things. And what you're saying is, yeah, but I've named the two lumps, and I'm putting a line here, and therefore that's all there is. And I'm sorry, that's just not good enough for me. Binary, for lack of a better word, is not good enough. That's where I come from with it. If you're looking at like trying to define these terms, I think, and like what exactly does this x-axis represent? I think those graphs are meant to be a little bit more descriptive than that, personally. But at the end of the day, a multivariate system with no solely determining variable, with no single solely binary variable, plotting out to something with two lumps and a varium of continuation between them does not sound like a binary to me. But hey, that's just my opinion, and I'm just one biologist out of many. And there are many who agree with me and many who don't. So please, I encourage everybody, just the same way as I would with any science, go learn it. Go study it. Go pick up a genetics textbook and have it tell you about all the different versions of intersex out there. Go pick up a developmental biology textbook and tell you about all the different ways that can happen. Go talk about, go pick up an introductory biology textbook and have it tell you about all the variation. A human biology textbook that strictly says it's not fair to say everybody who's XY will look like this and everybody XX will look like that. It's again, I can't stress this enough. This is not actually contentious. We're just playing like it is. It's like climate change. Everybody knows there's wiggle room and variation. What we're arguing about is interpretation. These other scientists out there, we all agree on most of this. The one thing we don't agree on is the interpretation of that. What do we do with that knowledge now? And there are those of us who say life is interesting and fuzzy, and there are those of us who say, no, it's very strict, and it fits in these two little things, and it doesn't work anywhere else, especially not here. Anyway, that's about all we've got for this one, man, but I really appreciate you calling in.